Hey, this is Kyle. I'm going to be going over the idea of inheritance or polymorphism in some other languages. So let's go ahead and open up the tutorial that we started with in GML at the very beginning in our 101 video, where we built a basic platformer. So let's let this open up. So polymorphism is the idea of you have like a superclass and you have a subclass. So once again, this same reason for functions, it comes all the way back to code reusability. So you want to have to make the least amount of changes as possible in the least amount of locations possible. So what's happening is, let's say you have a superclass called animal, and you have a subclass called dog. And so what you do is you have, let's say an animal can do all sorts of things, right? It can speak, it can walk, it can eat, it can do all this stuff. So you write a superclass called animal, and then you write all these functions for it to do all of these things. And then you write the dog class. And instead of having to redefine all those functions and having to or to have to copy and paste all that code over to the dog class, what you would do is you would have it set, it's different per language, but you would have it set so that dog is a subclass of animal. And then what happens is immediately it inherits all of those functions, all that functionality, etc. So right off the bat, dog will behave as an animal. And then you can do something called overriding. So it's essentially, let's say when you wanted to, so animal, has all these functions, but then in the speak function it says hello. Well, dog doesn't say hello, so you can inherit all the functions over to dog, but then you can override. So you can essentially specify one function that you want to alter for the subclass, and you can cherry pick which functions you want to change here and there. So it's really like you can just pull in whatever you want and then kind of redefine the things accordingly to compensate for the differences. So now that you know what inheritance or polymorphism is, and polymorphism is more of the idea that a dog is an animal. So if you ever have like a group of animals later, it could have dogs, it could have cats, it could have giraffes, zebras, things like that. So that's what polymorphism is. And then inheritance is the actual idea of pulling in their functions and things like that. So I'm going to now show you how we would handle that in GameMaker Studio. Okay, so what it seems is that it did not correctly save the game that I had. I had to make some changes around on my desktop, so it looks like it deleted some files. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and make a new sprite here. And actually, let's just call him, so we don't have to have another thing. Okay, yeah, let's just have it called sprite. Let's just call it sprite box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a few more frames here. And we'll dye that one. Dye that one. Just pick some random colors if you like. Okay, bada boom. So let's close that. So this is now sprite box, and the first one is a black box. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new object. We're going to call it object box. Okay, and we're going to assign it to sprite box. So what we're going to do is, let's just say name equals box. And we're going to say that, let's call it density. So what's going to happen is we are going to spawn these boxes in, and then based on the density is how many other boxes we're going to create underneath it. So we'll kind of elongate it based on the density. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. So let's just say default density is 5. And then let's also just call something. Let's call this let's just call it display box, and all its logic will be it'll have no logic. It'll just be for display. Well, this is the real box. Okay. So we'll have a name box, density equals 5. We'll have image speed equals 0, so it doesn't rotate through the frames. Image index equals 0, so it remains a black box. Okay, bada boom. And then we will make a step event where we'll just say if density is greater than 0. First thing we're going to do is we're going to decrement density, and then we are going to instance create. They call it layer now. It used to just be instance create, but now that's deprecated, so they call it instance layer. So all you're really going to do is where are we going to create it, this new thing. So it's instance create, and then it's where you specify a layer. So what you do is you give it some coordinates, and then we give it a layer. So there's the default layer of instances, and then what object are we going to create? We're going to create an object display box. Cool. Yeah, but let's just call it a new box, and that'll return a reference. So now new box is this box that we've created. It will be returned by this function call. So we're creating a display box 32 pixels below that box. Actually, let's just say let's do this. Let's put that yeah, there we go. So that'll make like a column of display boxes. Because if density is 5, it'll spawn it down here and then build the column all the way up to the current block. That should actually work. Okay. And we decrement it, and then we say so now the new box has been set to the sprite as well. So we also have to say, hey, new box, your image speed also needs to equal 0, and new box, your image index should equal my image index. Okay. Right, so let's just see if this works. Let's just have object box. Okay. So it should have 5. So it should have a density of 5, and this is box. Oh, and then we could go ahead and make a draw event where it just draw text self.x self.y plus let's just say minus 32 because we want it to be written above it, and then we would just say name. We're going to draw our name. Oh, and then you also have to say, if you override the draw function, you also have to say, hey, like draw myself. So it says its name and density, image speed, and image index. And then what it's going to do is this is the logic to step through building like a column of display boxes that look like me. And then this is drawing my name. So this will come full circle with polymorphism in a second. And then let's change the background of this to white. And then let's drag in some instances. It's kind of a small room. That's okay. So let's just play this. Hang on, I think I messed something up. Yeah, let's make this guy 32 by 32. So now, when I actually, when I increment by 32, it's a whole block width. that it spawns a new thing. Fantastic. So so it puts the first one there that has the logic, and then it kind of builds his column. Okay, so now this is where this is going to come in handy. So our polymorphism is, we're going to say, let's make object, what kind of colors do we have here? Blue. Okay, let's just say, well, we have two blues. Let's change one of those. Let's change that to like a light blue. Let's make this one purple. Nope. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to call this object purple box. Cool. And it will also use the sprite box. So now this is where we're actually going to get into inheritance. So what we're going to do is we're going to make its parent be object box. See, and so why is that locked in? Hang on, this may be a changed feature. So when we change this, okay, that's what we wanted. Okay, that's an interesting functionality. So what you want is you want it to have inherited. So event inherited. So this will do is it will just pull in your parent's draw logic right here. So imagine this is like a little function that just executes their entire thing, their entire draw, right? So so let's see. So this seems like it wants to show you. Let's not do that. Let's do let's inherit all of these. Cool. Okay. So they've all been inherited. There we go. Let's just delete that crap. Okay. So let's look at the object box. So let's see. So what do we want it to do? We wanted to build a column here based on my image index. Okay, that is exactly what we want here. So we are not going to touch this. We just wanted to inherit that functionality. So we're not going to touch that. As for the draw, let's see what's going on here. Actually, it didn't show the text, did it? I think it's because it was on a white background. So let's do draw set color, and then let's do C white. So that, or C black, because it was on a white background, and I think it's defaultly white text. So that's how you change the color of the text, and then you're going to draw the text, and then you have to make sure you draw yourself, the box itself. So let's see. So we're not we're just gonna inherit the draw too. So let's see. So now, how is a purple box actually different from a just box? So, well, where this comes down to is the create event. So what's going to happen is, you see how here we say my name is just box, and I have a density of 5, and then I set my image speed and image index to 0. So what happens is we can pull that in. so that all of those variables and all of that information is default. And then this is where we can override. So what's happening here? We're defining those 4 things. So this is where I'm gonna, so if I don't touch anything, purple's box, the name will inherently be box. The density will inherently be 5. The speed, the image speed and image index will both be inherently 0. So how do I want purple box to be different? Well, I want it to be different by saying name equals purple. And I want density to equal 7. And I want my image index to equal 1 because I actually want the purple box. And then what's happening is this should do what I think it's doing. Let's drop the purple box in there. Let's see. So what's happening is, and see, since I've made it kind of modular, so what's going to be happening here is we've already written box in a way so that the display box that it makes, its image index is set to my image index, and that logic is going to carry over to the purple because we inherit the step logic for that. So what's happening is then while the purple box is creating display boxes, it's going to be passing on its image index because it inherited that function. So this should be, there we go. So we have a black box, just like that. Let's see. Yeah. So we have we inherited the name, we inherited the density, and we and all that. So all that was de facto. And see, since but you see how I didn't have to specify. I didn't have to say that. That's because that's one of the few things, that was one of the only 4 things that I inherited that I wanted to keep the same. So later on, if you have objects that are, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lines long, if not thousands per event, it's better to just inherit everything and then change the few differences. You don't want to have to copy and paste, and do all this ridiculous stuff. So yeah, and let's see here. We could even have it. We could even have it where the box, when it's created, we can make it even more modular. We could say, text. So instead of the draw event setting it to black, and then drawing the text after that, what we could do is we could have it say like, what do I want my text color to be? Well, for box, I want it to be black. Okay. And then in the draw event, I would say draw set color just to my, what did I call it? Text color? Yeah, I'd call it text color. And it would actually, not a string, but I would say C black. Okay, so the box's text color is now black. And in the draw event, I say draw the color of my text color. And now, since that's a variable now, instead of kind of hard coded, we can go to purple box and then override its create event and say I want my text color to equal C purple. And so what's happening is it's going to inherit this draw event. So what's happening is object purple box overrides the create event that sets its text color variable. And then it inherits the draw event that is going to set the color according to this variable, right? Yeah, because we inherit that. So so now that should be even more modular. So now it should actually draw its name in the color of the column. Bingo. So purple. This is purple in purple, and this is box in black. And then, yeah, and see, and so what happens is if we didn't do polymorphism at all, I would have had to copy and paste all of these lines of code, all of them, into here. But instead, I literally just event inherited, and then I just it's called overriding. I just overwrote some variables here. And so that's polymorphism. It's it falls in the same premise as functions, where functions is all about code reusability. It's about, putting it all into one script or function and then calling it multiple times from multiple places. That's exactly what's happening here, where we're essentially just saying, hey, like, reuse my parents' code, because like I'm essentially just a derivation of them. So I'm just gonna borrow a lot of their stuff. So that is how inheritance and polymorphism works. They're kind of one and the same. Inheritance is the premise of taking on the status of your parent, and then polymorphism is how a child can represent a parent. So let's go into a little more detail here. Later on, I could have an array of boxes, but the actual indices, like the values stored in them, could be boxes, or it also could be purple boxes. So we're actually allowed to have purple box, like a purple box is a box. So what some people say is always program up to the highest status, or the highest superclass. So later on, you kind of pigeonhole yourself if you make arrays of purple boxes, when you should actually be making arrays of boxes, and then you could squeeze in boxes, purple boxes, blue boxes, green boxes. You can store all these boxes, all these different kinds of boxes, in an array of boxes. So yeah, so it's about programming up to the highest abstraction, if that's what you want to call it. Let's see here. I feel like that was a pretty good cover. Yeah, so I guess that's done for now. Thanks for watching this. This is a very important topic. Yeah, thanks for watching.